Alrighty, guys. Well, welcome to my stream here. This is my first time doing this, so bear with me on everything here. I'm trying to figure out how to work OBS currently. Ooh, that's not right. Okay. Hold on, there we go. Let me see. So, I will be watching and reacting to this video called Life's Biggest Philosophical Questions Explained in 13 Minutes. And I'm currently live right now, but I'm pretty sure at the end of this video I can save it and and publish it as a YouTube video. So hopefully I'm able to do that. I'm currently trying to figure out what's going on here. Let me shrink this up. Welcome. I don't know if anybody's joined yet or not. I don't think so. It says chat rate. I don't really know what that means. I'm just scaling this. Okay. Now I'm trying to figure out why it's frozen on this. But whenever I get this figured out, let's see here. Hmm. And I actually don't think I am here. I think I got it, guys. Sorry. Bear with me here. Okay, there's that. Let me just make sure. Okay, yeah, so I got this taken care of now. Now I just need to add the audio for you guys. Okay.
A reality rather than absolute nothingness. Why doesn't it all look like...
Okay, alright, so looks like we're rolling good now, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and full screen this. It's a 13-minute video. I might just go over half of it first. We'll take a look and see. I'm going to make sure you guys can get the full thing here. So yeah, it talks about know nothing. Does God exist? Are we alone? Consciousness, free will, reality, meaning of life, and afterlife. So let's just go ahead and get right into it and see what
Why
we're
is there
talking about.
something rather than nothing? Of all the questions humanity has ever asked, this might be the most profound. Why does anything exist at all? Why is there a universe, a reality, rather than absolute nothingness? Why doesn't it all look like this? Hello? Hello? The German philosopher Gottfried Leibniz famously asked this very question, concluding that there must be a necessary being.
You know, this is actually an interesting topic because I know that he'll bring this up probably later in this video as another type of philosophical questions about is there something rather than nothing, and really that's arguable to what you believe because I mean if I'm being honest, like, how do we know that there is nothing and we're all just living in a dream? You know, if you want to like get down to it, we don't really know what's going on. We're kind of just believing things based off perception and what we were told, but everything could just be, we could all be living in a literal simulation or something that's just created by something else, or we could all just not even actually be real, you know, and we're all just perceptions of like who we think we are and all that stuff. But yeah, that's why he'll probably bring that up later in this video too, but that's just something that I wanted to talk about on
Something that
this topic.
exists by its own nature. Many religious traditions take this as an argument for God. But not everyone agrees. Bertrand Russell dismissed it outright, saying the universe simply is and there's no further explanation needed, which is a quite boring and unimaginative answer if you ask me. Modern physics, however, offers other possibilities. The Big Bang Theory suggests our universe had a beginning, but what came before it? Some physicists argue that quantum mechanics allows for something to emerge from nothing, an unstable vacuum state that inevitably produces existence. Others propose that our universe is just one of many in an infinite multiverse, removing the need for a singular cause. Still, these explanations only push the question further.
Well, it's interesting to think about because one thing that's caught my attention since I was young and just kind of always in general is how if you were to go outside and look into space, it's literally infinite. There's literally no end to where you're looking. It's literally just goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and there's never a boundary. So that same idea can even be translated into time. You know, you look back in time. Time is just a construct of numbers to really help schedule our daily lives, but in reality, like time has always been a thing. You know, it's always been a thing. We just never had a name for it. You know, it's just how many times the sun revolves around the earth at what pace, you know. So if you look back, it's literally infinite. So it's just inexplainable to why there is something rather than nothing and how it could have been created. Yeah.
Why do these laws of physics exist in the first place? Why not nothing? Perhaps, as Martin Heidegger suggested, this is simply the fundamental question of existence.
And I also wanted to just also add on that, like, I feel like this is an important question to think about because if you don't think about it, then you'll just be stuck with, like, is there no meaning to life? You know, and that's okay if you want to, like, if that's how you want to live your life. But having that thought, if in the back of my head, I'm thinking, like, there has to be something, you know, all this has to be happening for a reason. And that kind of helps drive me and push me to the next levels and just how I, like, drives me in my life in general, you know, and as far as, like, motivation goes.
One we may never truly answer. But one thing is clear. There is something rather than nothing. So now that you are here, you might as well get the best out of it. Does God exist? If there is something rather than nothing, does that imply a creator? For centuries, this question has fueled debate between philosophers.
This question, I know I'm stopping the stream a lot, but this question, I'm talking like I got views, but I have 0 views right now. But I guess I'm just assuming for the people who are going to be watching this on my YouTube channel is this question is, in my opinion, the tip of the iceberg to, like, anybody who has ever thought deeply about anything. I feel like this is one of the first questions that people develop before they start getting very interested in philosophy, other religions, theoretical questions, quantum physics or mechanics, parallel universes. Like, this is the first question that just originates all that kind of, all these questions. And just like I said, the tip of the iceberg before you start digging the hole of, like, so many more questions that you'll ask yourself moving forward.
Philosophers, theologians, and scientists alike. The cosmological argument, famously put forth by Aquinas, asserts that everything in existence must have a cause. Trace those causes back far enough, and there must be an uncaused first cause, something that exists by necessity rather than contingency, often identified as God. The teleological argument, or the watchmaker analogy, suggests that the universe's complexity and order hint at intelligent design. Even modern physics, with its precise fundamental constants, has led some scientists to believe the universe is fine-tuned for life, suggesting a creator. But skeptics argue that science provides natural explanations. Evolution explains the diversity of life without divine intervention. The problem of evil challenges the notion of an all-powerful, all-good God.
This is, like I said, this is the tip of the iceberg into like a very deep conversation. And this is my quick take on this because I know in the future this will get brought up again. But when it comes to religion for me, this is how I like to think of it. Is, first of all, I think believing in religion is indifferent. I don't think it's good or bad. I don't think you're a bad person if you do, and I don't think you're a good person if you do. I honestly strictly think it's an opinion. It's a thought, it's opinion. And those people argue like, no, it's a fact, but it's opinion in kind of what you would choose to believe in. Even if you choose to believe in science, science can't explain everything, so even that's still an opinion. It's just what we choose to believe. So if we that's how I feel about like the people and me and just how like we should perceive religion. That's how I believe we all should. It's indifferent. It doesn't matter necessarily to me if you believe in God or not. And it shouldn't matter to you whether I believe in God or not. But and the reason I say that is because I think there's good and bad things. I think there's good things because for some people it drives them to be a better person, become faithful, and do good things for the greater good of humanity. And I think that's great. If that's what's helping you do better and be a better person, then I think that that's a great idea. But to go to that, I don't think you need religion to teach you those things and how you should live your life. So that's why I feel that it's indifferent. It doesn't really matter. I just think that the most important thing for me is that we're all trying to be better people, and just not be bad people. That's in simple terms how I believe about it. And if believing in God means that you're working to be a better person, if not believing God means that you're working to be a better person, then so be it for both of you guys. And you know what I'm saying?
If he is good and sentient, why allow suffering? Some argue that belief in God is a product of human psychology, a way to find meaning in a chaotic world. The debate continues. Science hasn't proven God's existence, but it hasn't disproven it either. Personally, I'm agnostic. I don't know, and I don't think anyone does or ever will. Some see God as the answer to existence. Others see no need for one. In the end, it might be a question we're simply not meant to answer. Are we alone in the universe? The vastness of the universe suggests that life should be abundant.
This is very... I could see how people can assume that and I guess even I'm assuming because I don't really know, but if you ask me, no, we're not alone in the universe, and I can put it very simply. And I heard this from somebody else, and it's very simple, is if we're able to, like in another planet, like Mars, if they're able to, in the simplest way, survive for even any type of living organism, like a plant, a microorganism, literally bacteria, or just anything super small, if that like being of life is able to be on Mars and something so close like that, and I don't even know if that's proven, but I think that that's a very high possibility. And let alone if you were in, back to what I was saying about like the infinite, if you look into the space, it's infinite. So there's planets everywhere. There's so much things around us that we have no clue about what it is. So you can't tell me that we're just alone in this universe, but to go to that point, it's never been proven either. So what can I really say?
So why haven't we found any? Physicist Enrico Fermi famously posed the question, "Where is everybody?" His observation, now known as Fermi's paradox, points out that if intelligent life is common, we should have seen some evidence by now. Signals, spacecraft, megastructures, something. Instead, the universe remains.
Just to go to that real quick, I'm pretty sure I just saw saw something that literally said that we still get a signal from space. It's like every so often that we literally can't explain. So that's kind of argumentative.
Eerily silent. One way to estimate the number of extraterrestrial civilizations is through Drake's equation, a formula developed by astrophysicist Frank Drake. It factors in things like the number of habitable planets, the probability of life developing, and how long civilizations might survive. The math suggests that intelligent life should be common. But where is it? One possibility: we may be alone. Intelligent life could be extremely rare. Another, civilizations self-destruct before reaching interstellar travel, or they could be actively avoiding us. Some believe that civilizations exist, but choose to stay quiet out of fear. This idea, known as the dark forest theory, suggests that shouting into the void is dangerous, because if intelligent species compete for survival, it might be best to remain hidden. If the dark forest theory is true, it is a bit awkward for us.
Hey, welcome in.
Oops.
Over the
But
biggest
if that theory is
philosophical
wrong,
questions.
then why the silence? Are we the first? Are we the last? Or are we simply not listening properly?
I'm going to real quick see if I can pull up the chat here. Let's see. Welcome, welcome. Sorry for the delay. I'm trying to figure something out here real quick. Oh, here we go. I got the chat here rolling. So, thanks for coming in to watch. Going over the philosophical questions, top philosophical questions. I'm turning up the heat. It went away. One sec. Sorry about that. Bear with me here. This is my first live stream. Still trying to figure everything out here. Here it is.
I don't know which is more terrifying. The idea that we are truly alone, or that other intelligent beings exist, ones that might see us in the same way as we once saw lesser developed civilizations here on Earth. If history is any guide, first contact doesn't always end well. What is consciousness? Consciousness is the core of human experience, the awareness of self, thoughts, and sensations. Yet, science and philosophy still struggle to define what it truly is. Philosopher David Chalmers differentiates between the easy problems, explaining how the brain processes information, and the hard problem. Why does brain activity create subjective experience? Why does it feel like something to be conscious? Most scientists take a materialist view, arguing that consciousness emerges from neural interactions. Some believe it's just advanced information processing, while others see it as an illusion. Neuroscience ties consciousness to activity in the cerebral cortex and thalamus. Brain Scans has identified brain activity associated with awareness, suggesting that consciousness only happens in the brain. However, not everyone agrees. In contrast, dualists following Descartes suggest that consciousness exists separately from the physical body. a view shared by many religious traditions that link it to the soul.
This is an interesting idea about consciousness. I guess you can't really fully explain it, as far as like where it comes from, how we think, where like I guess I shouldn't say how we think, but like really where our brain, soul, whatever you want to call it, comes from. And it's an interesting question, but it's more like I'm gonna go back here a little bit because he goes over the science of it. Let me see.
Ties consciousness to activity in the cerebral cortex and thalamus. Brain Scans has identified brain activity associated with awareness, suggesting that consciousness only happens in the brain.
Consciousness only happens in the brain. So the idea of like who you are is just a thought inside of your head, which that makes sense to me. Like I feel like it all. I mean, that's like just questioning like why humans are a thing in a way. Like what is a human? Like why was a human created? Especially like why was a human created with a consciousness? Is like asking the question like what is consciousness? He kind of just went over. It's just a thing inside of your brain, but understanding what it really is a whole nother level. And I don't think that it's some type of external factor from religion or someone living through me or reincarnation or whatever. Like, I'm not saying I don't believe in that stuff. I just don't think that that's what consciousness is. I think consciousness is the part in your brain that kind of makes you understand who you are and why you need to make the decisions you need to make.
However, not everyone agrees. In contrast, dualists following Descartes suggests that consciousness exists separately from the physical body, a view shared by many religious traditions that link it to the soul. Some theories go even further. Panpsychism suggests that consciousness is a universal property of matter, while quantum theories, like those of Roger Penrose, propose that consciousness arises from quantum processes in neurons. If materialists are right and consciousness arises purely from physical processes, could artificial intelligence ever become truly conscious? Some argue it can only mimic awareness, while others believe a sufficiently advanced AI might develop subjective experience. If robots can gain awareness, does that mean that we are just biological machines, or is awareness something deeper, perhaps even fundamental to existence itself? Do we have free will? The question of free will, whether we...
I have a whole entire YouTube video on this with my buddy named Carter, and I'm pretty sure it is, let me double check. Hold on. It is, hold on. I watched a YouTube video and they opened my eyes to what this question really means and how far you can really take this video or this not this video, this thought, because I mean, I'm sure they're going to go over it and then I'll kind of explain my side of it.
Truly make choices or merely follow predetermined paths has been a philosophical battleground for centuries. Some argue that we are the architects of our own actions, while others claim our sense of control is just an illusion. Many believe in libertarian free will, the idea that human beings can make genuine choices unconstrained by past events. This view underpins our sense of moral responsibility. Punishment and reward only make sense if people have the capacity to choose between right and wrong. Religious traditions often affirm this belief, seeing free will as essential to divine justice. Determinists argue that everything, including human decisions, is the result of prior causes, our biology, upbringing, and the laws of physics. According to some findings in neuroscience, brain activity linked to decision-making occurs before we consciously decide, suggesting our choices are predetermined rather than freely made. If your brain activity precedes your awareness...
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much explained it. I think if you ask me, this is one of those questions I don't think I'll ever lean one way more than the other. I don't think so ever because it is just it's so I mean, think about it. We're all raised in an environment whether it's our parents, grandparents, foster parents, older siblings. And these people were raised in a certain environment by the people who raised them. And, it just goes on and on. And you start to think about how each person was raised. And I was trying to explain this. It's funny. I'm going to get a little personal here. I was trying to explain this to my mom. And she was like, no, we all have free will. She was like, I know I have free will because my grandma, her mom would tell her things and she'd be like, I wouldn't do that. And I'm like, well, that's exactly my point is you take the things you learn, you take everything that you hear into consideration when making the decisions based off of your previous experiences. So if like let's say my dad told me not to sneak out, well, that outcome was inevitable because he told me not to, and that made me want to, or I didn't because he told me to, and that was inevitable because he told me not to sneak out, so I didn't. Like, all these things that we are told by other people growing up, even if it means like doing something that we're not told to do, it will still affect the way that we think and we choose to make decisions in the future.
Awareness of a choice that has already been made, then do you have free will? Some, like David Hume and Daniel Dennett, propose compatibilism, the idea that free will and determinism can coexist. They argue that as long as we act in accordance with our own desires, without coercion, we are free in a meaningful sense, even if those desires are shaped by forces beyond our control. What is the nature of reality? Do we experience the world as it truly is, or is
I was talking about this at the beginning of the video, and it's just impossible to really understand what our actual reality is. And when I say that, we all could be living in a simulation, and some people just automatically act like that's not a possibility when we literally could all, like, everything could just be a not real, and we all could just be literally living in a simulation created by other people. Or, for example, like, what if colorblind people actually see colors as they are and normal people are colorblind?
our perception merely a filtered illusion? Materialism, the dominant scientific view.
And to kind of take this into another like section of an idea is the reason why it's important, actually, I feel like, to understand that these possibilities are true is to also understand how other people think and how much you really don't know. I feel like that's another part of learning and understanding more and really wanting to dive deep into these kind of questions is understanding how not even you, but just everybody in this universe understanding how little we know, especially when you compare it to the amount of progress we made during the early evolution times.
Holds that reality consists solely of physical matter governed by natural laws. Everything, space, time, consciousness, emerges from interactions of particles and forces. But quantum mechanics challenges this assumption. Experiments suggest that observation affects reality, and particles exist in multiple states until measured. Philosophers have long questioned the reliability of our senses. Plato's allegory of the cave argued that we perceive only shadows of a deeper truth. Kant suggested that reality as it exists is unknowable, filtered through the limitations of human perception. Idealists like Berkeley went further, claiming that reality is purely mental, existing only as experience. Some interpretations of simulation theory suggest that our universe could be an artificial construct. Whether reality is material, mental, or something beyond our understanding, the question remains: do we shape reality, or does reality shape us?
Do we shape reality or does reality shape us? I definitely think reality shapes us. I don't even think that's even a question. I mean, reality is life way beyond what any of the first human record has ever been created, if you ask me, right? I mean, yeah, especially when you're talking about humans and not just like living things and animals, like you're talking about humans. This world and Earth has been around in this universe for way before any type of human record has ever been created. So I think reality shapes humans, and based off this reality, it all comes down to like evolution and how we like when we were first here, we had to just survive. You know, even now, humans are living to survive. They're just not based off of the environment that we were put in. We don't create an environment that we like to live by. I feel like even now, we're still limited by hunger, shelter, clothes, and things like that that force us to live in a certain domain that was created by reality, if that makes sense.
What is the meaning of life? Few questions have captivated humanity more than the search for meaning. Is there a grand purpose, or is existence simply an accident? Religion.
This is a really good question because on some very like inspirational, motivational shit, I feel like a lot of people will say, well, the meaning of life is to go as hard as you can and try as hard as you can and do everything that you wish to accomplish. And I mean, obviously, the meaning of life, when you're thinking about it like on a literal aspect, is different for everybody. But when you're thinking on a vague aspect on like what are we actually put here to do, it could be a very high, if not guaranteed possibility that there is actually no meaning to life as far as okay, I was just watching a video and they were talking about how like what happens when you die, and then they say how you have two deaths. You have one when you stop breathing, and the second is when your name is last said. So when you think of it, it's like, you know, you are only going to be around for so long. I mean, there's only so many names that have been around. Like there's, it's some Egyptian name, some Egyptian god name was like the very first name ever, and that's still around. It's like, you know, but what actual impact did he have on life? You know, that created the like meaning of life. You know what I mean? But think about all the people who have lived their life and done it things and passed away that we have literally no clue about. Like there's just so many people in this world, and there's so many people who die who just literally go unheard of. There's people probably out there who are very lonely, who literally live their life all alone, do a normal job. I mean, they obviously experience complex things throughout their life, aka like Sonder, but they don't make any huge impact. A lot of people like in this world, like almost all people, almost create no actual impact on the world to where like it's a huge argumentative to say there is no meaning to life. We are just here to go through it and recycle, renew the process. You know, it's a huge idea, and I think it's very realistic, but I don't think it's a good way to think, if that makes sense, unless you're just taking it into consideration or understanding that perspective, which is what I do. I'm not like, I don't believe that, but I'm just taking it into consideration that that could definitely be a possibility.
Religious traditions often provide purpose through divine will. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism suggest life is a test, with moral choices determining an afterlife. Hinduism and Buddhism see life as part of a cycle, with enlightenment as the ultimate goal. These perspectives offer meaning through faith, but are they inherent truths or human constructs? Existentialists like Sartre and Camus reject preordained purpose, arguing that meaning must be created by the individual. Nihilists take a darker view, claiming life is inherently meaningless.
Yeah, I think this is the most accurate. Life is what you make
Meaning
of it.
must be created by the individual.
Yeah, the meaning of life, that's, excuse me, that's like, that's definitely what I think. Um, I mean, actually, I couldn't even say that, because if you think about it, there's bad people out there whose meaning of life could be to cause as much harm and do as much damage as possible. So that's, I don't think that that's it. because I don't think that, I think we all can create, I think meaning of life changes throughout life. Like when I was when I was in high school, I thought the meaning of life was this. When I graduated, I thought it was this. Now I'm 3 years out of high school, and now I think it's this. Like it's constantly changing, and I would say growing and fitting to more of what we actually want to choose on what we want to do with our life.
Individual. Nihilists take a darker view, claiming life is inherently meaningless, while humanists propose that meaning arises through relationships, creativity, and the pursuit of knowledge. Science, rooted in evolution, suggests that life has no intrinsic purpose beyond survival and reproduction. Yet, the study of consciousness, the universe, and the nature of reality leaves room for deeper inquiry. Is meaning subjective, or is there a hidden order to existence? Ultimately, the answer may be whatever we choose to make of it. Is there life after death? Few questions have haunted humanity as deeply as what happens after we die. Every culture, religion, and philosophy has grappled with the mystery, yet no definitive answer.
I will always argue that this is the number one reason why people choose to believe in religion is because they want a safe place out after death that understands, because everybody who believes in religion usually refers to as faith. They have faith that excuse me, sorry. They have faith that God will take care of them. And I understand that, but for me it's like, okay, this is how I think of it. And this is subject to change because I'm still pretty young and this is just kind of, but I have given a lot of thought into this. If I were to, I'm sorry. So this is the reason. So what happens after we die? That's why people choose to believe religion. Is kind of a claim that I'm making. Not like a huge, very strong claim, but sort of. It is a claim that people that believe in religion want something to rely on when they die. For me, it's whatever you're going to do, you shouldn't do it because that's the result on how your life will be after you're dead. Because you don't know. You never will know. So like if you're living your life a certain way just because you don't want X thing to happen after you die, then it's like, you're pretty much just living to die. Kind of like a Vinland Saga quote. If you've seen that, he says, are we just living to die? And that makes perfect sense because you're just living your whole life holding back from certain things. Now, that doesn't mean you go out and make bad decisions. And that's where I think religion comes into play in a good ways, because I do think that they teach you that the things that you want to do aren't always the things that you should do, and actually are very rarely the things that you should do. So that's why I do think it's kind of a good thing to believe in it sometimes, but you shouldn't have those, like I feel that way without having to think about God. I know that I just want to make the right decisions and do the right things, and not because I want a safe place after I die, but just because that's the kind of person I want to be remembered as, and I want to be able to like help and make an impact on other people's lives. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to be like that, but that's why I'm living my life. And a lot of these attributes you could find in religious people because they're driven by God, but I feel like they should just be driven by the self part, like their own, just because they would like to do it. And so yeah, that's pretty much my take on this.
Exists. Does consciousness continue in some form, or is death simply the end? Many religious traditions claim that an afterlife awaits. In Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, souls are believed to persist in heaven, hell, or other spiritual realms. Hinduism and Buddhism teach reincarnation, where the soul is reborn in a cycle of karmic justice until reaching enlightenment.
And I actually want to go into detail about this in a later video, but I am Hindu. Like I was raised as a Hindu, like in a Hindu household. And I can literally say right now that in my opinion is one of the most unbelievable religions there is. Now, I'm not trying to hate it, but I've done some research on it and a lot of it just doesn't make sense. But I also think that has to do a little bit with my understanding of Hinduism, and that's why I need to do a little bit more like understanding and research to really get what the religion is trying to teach. But as far as like an actual like was there a God that actually existed underneath this religion? I don't think so. In this religion, like this is one of the most least believable ones, if you ask me.
Enlightenment. These beliefs offer comfort and guidelines on how to obtain the best outcome. But are they more than wishful thinking? From a scientific standpoint, the dominant view is materialism. The idea that consciousness is a product of the brain, and when the brain dies, so does the mind. Near-death experiences challenge this notion. People who have clinically died and been revived often report floating above their bodies, seeing bright lights, or encountering deceased loved ones. Some claim to have recalled events they couldn't have physically witnessed, leading some researchers to question whether consciousness might exist separately from the brain. One theory we've already touched on, Roger Penrose's quantum theories, suggests that consciousness might be more than just a product of the brain. If true, this raises the possibility that it doesn't simply vanish when we die. But without empirical proof, the question lingers. Does something await us on the other side, or is death truly the end?
That is a perfect 50-50 question. That's another one we'll never know the answer to. Never will. And if you ask me, both are very, very believable. There's a chance that when you die, it's all black and it's just kind of like your soul's at rest and there's nothing. And then if you ask me, there's also another possibility where your soul or your consciousness kind of just goes somewhere to whatever you believe in or whatever it is. I think both of those possibilities are very, very true. I think it's a possibility that whatever happens could be what you believe in too. It's different for everybody. So I wonder how that would work out for someone like me who is undetermined and doesn't know.
All right, so those were some of the biggest philosophical questions we humans face.
That was a great video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed my first live stream. I got 2 viewers here, and I'm actually very hyped about that. I just want to say thank you guys for watching. It means a lot. I will be posting this video on YouTube as well. So, yeah, I'm still figuring out kind of how to use everything here, if I'm being honest with you guys. So just bear with me on these next few live streams. It's gonna be a little weird just because it's stuff I'm not really used to, but I think so far for my first live stream it actually went really well. So thank you guys for the 2 viewers for watching, and stay tuned for my next one. I'm gonna start trying to do these around Monday through Friday, about 3 to 5 times weekly. So stay tuned, and I will be trying to make a better schedule so you're not just kind of like, when is this guy going to go live? So thank you guys, and I will see you next time.